Welcome to Youth Sunday. We're so happy to have you all here. My name is Brigid Kroh. I'm a senior at Pembroke Hill, and because nobody has yet, I'm going to quickly explain to you what Youth Sunday is. We do this tradition every year where the service is entirely led by our youth, and typically we have our seniors lead our sermons, so that is what I'm going to be doing with the help of Luci as well. But before I jump in, I would like to share with you some scripture from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. As I mentioned, I go to Pembroke Hill, and I've been there my whole life. Because of that, I have a really hard time accepting change. At least half of the people I go to school with, I've known since I was 12 or younger. Last week, we took a picture for the yearbook with all of the people in my grade who have been around since first grade. Seeing us all together in one place made me deeply emotional. We laughed in the same way we used to 10 years ago when nothing mattered and we had time to spare. We giggled because, of course, the shortest boy in our grade ended up in the front row, just as he always has. And because, of course, the kid who was late to everything showed up 10 minutes after we were supposed to arrive. I was standing behind one of my best friends of 9 years and next to the girl who goes to the same therapist as me. Behind me was the first boy I dated. We were 2. I love these people like family, even though I'm not really friends with most of them anymore. You can imagine the fear that I'm feeling, knowing that I will be moving on to a new normal next year. In fact, I'm sure most of you have gone through this exact same feeling yourselves. What I have found to be the most challenging about this transition is losing my constants. I've learned to be better with change, but only because I know there are some things that will always stay the same. It's scary to know that I won't be able to rely on Pembroke or my classmates as a constant anymore. I won't be seeing the same people in the halls every day. I won't be walking through the same buildings to the same theater I've been walking to for 6 years. It will all be different. Over the last few months, I've been really trying to ground myself, find what will stay. I've realized that second pres is really one of the only other things that has remained the same through my whole life. Even when I don't come here every week, I know that the congregation will always be here for me, and the building itself will too. Church has always felt vulnerable to me. I haven't been comfortable sharing it with the rest of the world every day, but I've always been comfortable sharing the rest of my world with the church. It's a safe space, a haven, when scary things like change are happening elsewhere. I've only opened up second to a few of my close friends because it's sacred to me and I feel the need to protect it. Luci is one of those friends. We've been going here together since 5th grade, and despite all of the things that have changed in our lives, and there have been a lot, we have always come back to this place. It tethers us to each other. After she left Pembroke, I was so glad I still had something to share with her, a community. Luci is one of the only people my age that I feel truly comfortable sharing my faith journey with, and I know that no matter how long we are apart, we can always come back to the same place, and it feels like no time has passed at all. Not all friendships are like that. It's hard to find. I've been through so many different iterations of different friend groups trying to find the one that fit, and it really took until this year to truly find it. This may be naive or controversial, but I believe that friendships should get the same amount of attention and care as romantic relationships. If it becomes obvious to me that I'm in a friendship where I care far more about the other person or that I'm putting in more effort than them, then it feels draining to me, and I no longer feel like it's worth maintaining. Because of that, I have had friendships end. I think high school is a difficult social time for most people. Even when you're in a steady friend group, there can be conflict and insecurities, and usually there are. Finding people that can last through the many changes that come along with this time in life is such a task. It took me a while to be okay with not settling for groups that don't feel good. I felt for a while that I was a leaver or that I wasn't loyal enough. Then I remembered that I am loyal when those people are doing the same thing for me. With Luci and with my newest friend group, it is clear that we care about each other, and it isn't one-sided. My current group of 4 at school is not what I ever would have expected, but we work so well together. If you had told me in 8th grade that my best friends would be that girl that I was jealous of and 2 twin brothers that are obsessed with sports, I don't even know how I would react. Despite our differences, we have the crucial things in common, the things that make us click. Most importantly, we all love each other, and we make sure the others know it. A friendship needs to be able to endure external changes, and these ones do. I've come to a place of acceptance in regard to ending friendships that are no longer beneficial. I've also found strength within myself through all of it. I often make videos, notes, or voice recordings addressed to future Brigid. It seems obvious, but she's one of the only people that is definitely going to be around for the rest of my life. She's the only person that has been through every single change with me because she is literally me. Future Brigid has my back, and I have hers. I've always found it fun to keep her up to date on what's going on in my life. I want to read to you a few quotes from an audio recording that I have updated several times over the last couple of years. I've said to future Brigid, "It's okay to let go." And I don't even know if I believe it when I say it out loud, but it is. It's okay. And another quote, "There are more people out there than the world of Pembroke Hill, and that's okay. And when you leave, you are going to be okay." Honestly, both of these things I really needed to hear right now at this point in my life, so I'm really glad that I took the time back then to reflect and talk to myself. I know that while I can't control what happens in the world around me, and that certain aspects of who I am will shift, but at my core, I will always be the same Beta, Brigid, Bridgie, Pigeon, or however else I am known. Change is inevitable. That is something that both terrifies me and comforts me, and it's a truth I've come to accept. I know when change is needed, and that is in part thanks to Taylor Swift. Sorry, I'm really not great at segues, but here's a song of hers that has really helped me deal with change. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Luci Knopik, for those who don't know me, and I'm a senior at St. Teresa's Academy, just up the road. And like Brigid very kindly said, I've been coming to Second for about 7 years now, while being able to form meaningful connections and relationships. Some of my closest friends have been formed through late-night lock-ins and campouts. And reflecting on the broad topic of change for this year's Youth Sunday has been somewhat poignant, because I remember this summer when Brigid and I had the idea for Youth Sunday. We are at a weird point in our lives. We are navigating some intricate relationships while about to embark on our final year of high school. We had a moment where we realized how we've stayed close for so long and how Second really played a part in our friendship, even though things were so different than they had ever been. And I'm excited to talk about it with you guys today. Throughout life, we are essentially collectors of experience, creating indelible bonds with friends, flipping through the photo book of memories. Yes, reflecting and reminiscing on the good times and bad is a visual illustration in our minds of how things have changed. I'm sure you've heard the phrase living in the past, which is almost ironic because we are living right here, right now. The past is unattainable. Some memories play tricks. Often the things we think we remember so well are shaped into what we want to remember. And we don't have much control over some situations in life, and we often find ourselves at the mercy of choices that aren't entirely our own. Something we can control is our narrative. Our narrative is shaped by our past experiences and memories as we use them to write our unique story. At our core, we're human beings made up of how we've changed. There are pivotal moments in life that unmistakably mark our transformation. Childhood is one example of this. When our brains are still developing, there is quite literally constant change happening to your body. Another example is moving from place to place, making new grounds for ourselves. Our relationships alter through time. We experience rejection. We are not liked. But we get married, sometimes we divorce. We go through pandemics, and we experience grief. We see the before and after of a technology revolution. And if that's not enough, we have to accept all these new additions. But if we can't accept how life is moving around us, we cannot accept the changing person we all are. These experiences happen to us, for us, and ultimately, we have the power to either accept this as our story or deny it and bury it deep within us. For those who know me, know I am an expressive and candid individual. I'm unafraid to wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm not one to bury it deep inside. This has made maneuvering through the highs and lows of growing up sometimes too heavy. But I have been an avid journaler since 6th grade, ever since a close family friend introduced me to this amazing relief of putting pen to paper. This has left me with many artifacts of my middle school and high school days. When I began to outline this talk, I turned to journals for reference about my changing self. I came across a letter I wrote myself in 8th grade, stuck in the very back of one of my journals. From August 2019, it reads, "Who would like Lucinda? I'm not much, no doubt about it. Honestly, my humor is bland. I'm loud and quite annoying and so emotional. Even my best friends let me know it. I'm myself and it gets me nowhere. Why am I like this? I lie, I tell secrets, and I'm ugly. Even my best friends let me know it. And it's never gonna work out for me because for some reason I'm always in some drama. My soul is not so innocent, not so cute, and not so lovable. Just change. Will tell me how. I'm listening." And although I don't remember what brought on this emotionally charged letter, just wishing to move the clock forward in time, I do feel for the 14-year-old girl who wrote it. She seems to be a completely different person than the girl standing before you today. Stepping into high school, I was already much different than that girl from the letter. I, of course, was different due to how I have and had since changed, but there are always experiences we feel as if they are defining parts of us. And in high school, there have been times I wanted to move the clock forward again, just so I could leave those moments behind. It's scary to think your mistakes make you who you are. These challenging experiences can feel haunting, leaving us apprehensive about who we are becoming. Sophomore year, I struggled to feel accepted by the girls in my school. Although looking back, most of this fear was in my head. I was dealing with some mean boys and girls. There were some points during this year I asked God to take me anywhere but here, anywhere but this school. I wanted to be anyone else, but I was stuck being me. Those months of school were not pretty, and I had never felt so alone. I felt like I only had myself. I was that 14-year-old girl again, wishing to be different. And those memories are sometimes painful, but for the most part, there are genuine times in my life that I'm grateful for. There is something beautiful about making it through a time you wouldn't want to relive and realizing it was all for the better. There was another letter I wrote myself about a year ago. And although I was not dealing with any more mean girls, thanks to change, junior year brought on its new set of challenges. For March 2023, it reads, "Dear me, over these past few days, I've been feeling extremely connected and at peace. Though things may be changing, one thing that has not changed is that God is with me. I know I'm stressed about school, friends, and family right now, and nothing like this has ever happened to me before, but I know I can rely on love. With pain, there's love. I always risk being vulnerable with friends and relationships. I don't need to be afraid. Life has a way of working itself out. It's okay to be struggling right now because I'm still enough. I have purpose and calls to make change. I want to be better as a friend, sister, and daughter. I am left with nothing but love. Love, Lucy." It's safe to say I wasn't in 8th grade anymore. Although this letter is much more of an upper than the last, it feels much more vulnerable and much more real. This is more of the narrative I want to write for myself. Finding acceptance for how I've evolved, both spiritually and emotionally, has given me a unique strength. This part of my narrative reflects forgiveness, and I've welcomed the idea that I can learn to let myself be influenced by my spirituality. In this way, I resonate with the reading from Philippians. Funny enough, Paul also liked to write letters. Paul writes home warmly to some old friends, and Paul, like me, seems to be writing from his heart. More specifically, Paul is writing a letter to his friends where he founded a church in Philippi. Before writing this letter, Paul has been going through some trials himself. Paul has been in prison, most likely in Rome. And after a close friend of his falls gravely ill, Paul is anxious for his church and his friends. But he writes a letter in good spirits. I imagine Paul writing this letter as I wrote mine in my journals, reflective and creating a moment that will continue his narrative. In Philippians 4:10-13, he writes, "I rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it." I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do this through him who gives me strength. you can hear how grateful Paul is. He seems to be at peace with where his journey has taken him and understands that through any circumstance, he can learn to be content. Another word that sticks out to me is renewed. Renewal is considered to be a symbol of rebirth, a cycle of light and dark, a renewal of the earth's seasons. Paul beautifully explains this cycle by revealing how self-sufficient he is through life's trying times with God's presence. And although God won't stop change, there is a sense that our narrative will continue to be written. Sometimes our stories are painful, and it's easy to remember the tears. Other times, it's the little moments that gives us peace of mind. And when these happy moments occur, it's easy to accept how things are different than they used to be. But at the end of the day, our lives are never static. The hard goodbyes and welcome home hugs we feel deep in our core just reminds us of what it means to change. And I would like to end this today by being a little bittersweet. And if you're asking if this girl could get any cheesier, yes, she can. I think a reason anybody comes to church is to feel tethered to something. Church is something solid and strong to turn to. And I don't just mean structurally. And I wasn't baptized here. And although I didn't necessarily grow up here, I still grew here. What is truly extraordinary about Second is the community that collectively undergoes ongoing transformation. Cultivating a spiritual connection with God holds equal significance to discovering the sanctuary where you nurture that connection, the place that celebrates you for how you've evolved. And even though I'm going off into the world, well, a couple hours away at least, I would like to extend gratitude to everybody who has let this place become home to me too. Thank you.